Hi. All right, so I want to switch to a different topic today. I want to talk about anxiety and depression. And I've written some notes down here because I've been thinking a lot about this today. So I just jotted down my notes on what I was thinking about and what it's like to suffer with anxiety and depression, what they are. And so basically, I just want to start at the beginning. When you have a chronic illness, and you're really suffering with either something like pain syndrome, chronic fatigue, an autoimmune syndrome, fibromyalgia, some sort of a condition where your body's attacking itself. There's all these different kind of conditions. But I believe at the heart of it, you have to tune into your nervous system, and your nervous system is out of balance. So you are having like a nervous system dysfunction in a way. And that's what I believe anxiety and depression are. So I wrote down, there's the three things that I wrote down. So I wrote down you're either stable, okay? You either have anxiety, depression, or you're working on this thing which is wired but tired, okay? Which is basically both depression and anxiety. So that's number 4. Okay, so those are the 4 things it could be. If you've got something like fibromyalgia or chronic fatigue or some sort of, like a thyroid dysfunction or something where your nervous system is out of balance, okay? So if you're stable, you're feeling really good in your mind and body, you're relaxed and calm, you're happy, and you're energized and excited and joyful and feeling vital, sort of all at the same time. You can bounce back and forth between those states. So you can be relaxed one minute and then you can be feeling thriving or full of energy the next minute. But it's like a good mix, okay? So you feel stable, right? That's where we're all aiming to be. When we're stable, we're feeling good, right? So I want to talk a little bit about anxiety first. So anxiety, and I did suffer with an anxiety condition, so I do know a lot about it even before this current illness has come on. But anxiety is when your mind and body is fast. It's too fast, okay? So you're worrying and your mind is going really fast, spinning, racing thoughts, overthinking, your mind going 100 miles an hour. Just your mind is too fast and your body feels like it needs to move, like you have to pace, like an inner restlessness in your physical body. Like if you don't move, you're going to explode. Okay, so those are the types of symptoms that are associated with anxiety. And then you've got depression, which is the other side of anxiety. And I both think they're like one and the same. But depression, I chalk that up to your mind and body being slower than it should be. So, what did I write down here? Just basically your mind is slower. It's thinking slower thoughts. Your body feels heavier. It doesn't feel like moving. It's not ready to move, and your mind is unmotivated, and your body, that's what I wanted to say about depression. So the anxiety is like the ramped up in your mind and body, and the depression is the like slowing down of your mind and body, right? So your nervous system is just not functioning up to the speed in which it should be, both physically and mentally, right? And then there's this other stage, which I won't talk about in this video, but I will talk about in the next video about what to do, is the wired but tired, right? And this is where you're physically tired, you're physically wired, you're mentally tired, and you're mentally wired. So it's like everything, right? All combined. So it's like that mix of anxiety and depression, and you're basically unsure you're exhausted on all levels, right? So a lot of times when somebody starts an illness like this, it will either start with depression or it'll start with anxiety. But the longer it goes on, when it works itself into something, it usually works itself into that why you're a bit tired eventually, which is just kind of everything culminating to the fact that you feel trapped. You don't know what to do because you are having everything at once, right? Your mind is racing, but it's exhausted. You're physically exhausted, but your body needs to move or it's going to explode. So that's kind of like the worst of the worst. And what keeps this condition going, right? Into this chronic fatigue or chronic, just chronic central nervous system problem, right? Which just keeps rotating in circles. So I just want to talk about anxiety and depression really quickly and what I think you can do about those, okay? So when you're anxious, basically, right, you're pacing, you're racing, you could even have akathisia. I had serious akathisia, was just, you just have to move. You're gonna explode. You just wanna get right outside of your body. You're overthinking, a small version of that might be fidgeting or like a nervous energy. You have to be moving, right? And your mind is going a mile a minute. So for that, the things that I think that you can do for that to help that, I've written them down here. You have to slow your breathing. So the first thing you want to do is take a really slow breath, like in, hold it, and let it down. Do that over and over, and imagine your limbs becoming heavy. Imagine everything getting heavy, slowing down, right? You want to have warm things, so like a warm tea, a warm bath, calming our nervous system, right? We want to calm down that nervous energy. We want to listen to slow music, slow, light TV sounds, yoga, meditation, like if you're listening to podcasts, like a slow mind body connection, sort of monotone, slow, peaceful, that guided meditation type talk. This is what we're trying to do, right? So we want to slow down the body any way we can. So that's with warm foods, warm baths, soft music, soft talk. We want to have, for the foods, for anxiety, you want to have something stable, slowing down your body. Like you might have cravings for salty things or cheese or fatty things and things like that. So you want to choose the good versions of those. So water with sea salt, making sure we have enough minerals, making sure that we're having good fat in our diet, like nuts and avocados and coconuts, and protein like fish and fatty salmon, and these types of chicken, beef, whatever, just a nice protein, grounding foods, nuts, things that are grounding and are gonna help to not give you a spike in energy at all. They're gonna ground you, like protein. They're not gonna spike anything, fat. That's the kind of foods that you're looking for, right? And we wanna rest. We wanna slow down our breathing, slow down our body, rest it. We're not having any caffeine, no stimulants. We wanna have calming herbal teas and calming teas, magnesium, the minerals and teas and herbs that are meant to slow things down, right? This is what we want. But we don't want to overdo it. We don't want to take anything that's we don't want to crash our nervous system, right? By doing something too intense. Just we're looking to slow things down at an even pace. So sometimes you can't just go from 100 miles an hour to meditating. And some of the ways that you can get that nervous energy out, I've learned, is to pace it out a little bit, to walk. So even though you feel like running down the street and just screaming, you're so anxious, you want to run, you're in fight or flight mode. So you're really running, and it's like you're being attacked by a bear. So your body is experiencing heightened awareness and sounds and energy and all of these things. You don't want to do that, but you could pace a little. You could walk until you're tired enough to rest. These things are just until you're tired enough that you can sit down and do the breathing or do the meditation or rest. So we don't want to engage in those activities where we're causing more cortisol spike. Like you wouldn't want to go run a marathon, right? Because even though it's going to match that energy, you just want to do some physical activity, but winding it down. The way if a bear came, you would run, but then you would wind it down and slow things down, right? So you might not be able to go from the state that you're in to completely meditating, but you want to do things that are going to wind it down. Some physical activity, winding it down, from running to walking to sitting to breathing to winding it down to slowing down to being down to lying down to meditating to resting, right? So this is what we're trying to do when we have a central nervous system that's dysfunctioning towards being fast, right? Anxiety, fast, everything's sped up. So I think, yeah, that's what, right? We feel sad. We feel worried and motivated and helpless, and right it's just different. So you want to, it's not the same as depression. When you're depressed, you're feeling sad and unmotivated and hopeless. So it's a little bit different. So let's talk about depression here and things that we can do for that. So that's just your nervous system dysregulating as well, right? So you're fatigued, you're so fatigued, right? You are exhausted, you feel like you're on the verge of collapse, you're sad, you're lonely, you're feeling hopeless, and your breathing is shallow, you're mentally tired, you're physically tired, your breaths, everything's heavy, right? You need rest. You feel like you just can't go on another minute. You've got to lie down, right? So that's feeling depressed, right? You're sad, you're unmotivated, but not even that, you're just physically exhausted, right? So these are when your body's working slower, right? Your CNS, it's not getting any cortisol, right? So you feel like you're just barely able to function. So for that, we want to speed things up. So for our breathing, let's go the opposite of what we were doing for anxiety. We want to take like breaths like this. Right? Sitting up straight, breathing in through your nose, out through your nose. Nice, fast, sharp breathing. We want to sort of increase our energy, right? We want to increase our energy. We want to walk and at a brisk pace. And just like with anxiety, that if you're dead tired, you can't just like pick yourself up off the floor if you're lying in bed and you can barely walk to the bathroom. You're not just going to be able to throw on your running shoes and go run a marathon. You have to build your way up to going for a brisk walk. But the thing is, you've got to walk slowly. You've got to get your energy up with your breathing. You want to have energizing foods. So foods, your body might be craving things like chocolate and carbs and, quick energy things like honey and berries. So we don't want to like gorge on junk food, which is what we might do if we're having that dysregulation, but we want to choose the good ones. So like an all natural raw honey, just a teaspoon of it when we're feeling like so low, like so depleted, right? We want to have our minerals, right? And our vitamins and things that are gonna like give us quick energy, maybe a sweet potato, some carbs, a banana, maybe a piece of dark chocolate, although we do still want to avoid stimulants, even though this is the case where people need that pick-me-up, like the chocolate and the coffee. We don't want to do that. So we want to choose better alternatives. We want to choose quick sources of sugar, energy, and carbs that are really good for us and aren't going to make too many spikes. Because remember, if you go up, you're also going to crash. And if you're already down, you don't want that crash. So more like berries and, a banana, something like that, a sweet potato, which like a complex carb, or anything like that. So we want to eat more foods, cooked foods that are you can eat more of. Like if you eat a whole bowl of spinach cold, it's going to take you forever. But if you shrink it down, you can eat tons of it, right? You want to nourish your body and really give it energy, right? So we're having more foods, not less foods when we're depressed, and we're having, more sources where we're getting quick energy sources of food, right? So we We want to try to drink, we want to have cold things. So ice water dunks and cold showers at the end of it. We want to try to spike that cortisol. We want to try to get that energy flowing. We want to listen to things like motivational speakers, like maybe Tony Robbins and the kind of just do it and people screaming at you and really motivational talks and things that would pump you up, really good music and you know, dancing kind of music and just things that are going to raise that energy vibration up. Right? We want to walk, even if we can just walk a little bit or do a little, like a couple squats in a row. We just want to kind of get our energy up. And I know it's easier said when you have chronic fatigue syndrome, you don't want to push beyond your limits, but you definitely need to give yourself some life force and some vital energies through cold things, cold drinks, cold showers, cold foods. Quick sources of energy and lots of food and energy where your body can use it, and walking and using our bodies and breathing properly. And, you know, everything is sort of the opposite of the anxiety. So those are the types of things that you can do and build up if you are depressed, if you have chronic fatigue syndrome, if you've got things where you just can't have no energy, zero energy, you have, you know, a chronic illness where you can't get out of bed, you're bedbound, you're exhausted, you're tired. These are the things that you need to do. And if you can't get out and walk, then you can listen to something motivating for an hour, right? You can do something that's going to stimulate either your mind or your body. So we want to think stimulating our mind and stimulating our body, things that are energy giving. Right? And the opposite for the anxiety, right? Calming it down, listening to calming things, eating calming foods, these types of things. So the last one, and I won't go into it because I don't have enough time right now, but is when you are wired but tired. So this is when you're physically tired and you're physically wired, and you're mentally tired and mentally wired. So you're everything, right? So you're exhausted on all levels, but you're wired on all levels. Your mind is basically telling you that you're anxious and there's a problem that needs to be solved, and your mind is going over and over and over, right? How do I escape despair? How do I get out of this problem? That's an anxiety thought. Or a depressive thought is more like, I don't think I can do it. It feels too hopeless. I'm too worn down, right? That's more like on the depressive side, right? You want to push those thoughts away because it's just too much. You can't keep trying to solve a problem, right? But when you're wired but tired, your mind is trying to solve the problem, and your body is too tired to run, right? You're spent physically, right? So this is when you've been sick for a long time. This is common. You can bounce between being wired and tired, being anxious, being depressed, being anxious, being depressed, having your nervous system working too fast, having it working too slow, feeling exhausted, having insomnia, not being able to sleep, right? All these problems. You're like, I don't understand. I'm exhausted. I have insomnia. I can't sleep, but my mind won't shut off, or my body feels like it wants to move. And in the middle of the day, you know, feel like you're going to collapse, and you can barely even, you know, walk to the end of your driveway, you know. So it's like a dysregulation. You're dysregulated, and your nervous system is out of balance. So I do have some ideas on what to do when you're wired but tired and everything has broken down. But in the meantime, if everything hasn't completely broken down and you're more leaning towards the faster CSM with the anxiety, or the slower CSM, which people call depression, and those are just words. It's basically just, you know, it's working fast or slow. It's working too fast with cortisol spikes, or you're not getting enough cortisol and it's too slow, right? You're not getting enough of the hormones, or you're getting too much of them. It's a hormone problem, right? And the balance of your central nervous system in your body. So try those things, and I'll be back to talk about what you can do if it's like everything.